There are stories that never die. They only sleep, waiting for the world to change before they rise again. Frankenstein 2025 is one of those stories, a resurrection, not just of a monster, but of what it means to be human. The film opens not with thunder, but with silence, a modern world, sleek, technological, and emotionless, where science has become God and empathy has become obsolete. Here, Victor Frankenstein isn't the romantic scientist of the 19th century anymore. He's a bioengineer, a pioneer of synthetic life in a near-future society where artificial intelligence, cloning, and genetic perfection are worshipped like religions. The year is 2025, and this is no Gothic castle. It's a sterile lab in Geneva, a city of glass, data, and quiet ambition. From the very first frame, director Luca Marinelli, in this imagined version of the 2025 film, delivers something unexpected. A Frankenstein not just reborn, but reinterpreted for a world that fears its own reflection. We've always created monsters. The only thing that changes is the technology we use. Victor Frankenstein, played by Timothée Chalamet, is portrayed not as a villain or mad scientist, but as a deeply broken man, driven by grief. His fiancée, Elizabeth, died in a global epidemic that tore apart millions of families. Victor, unable to accept loss, devotes himself to the idea of reversing death. He becomes the symbol of human arrogance, the desire to conquer nature, to outsmart mortality, to play God in a lab coat. In this retelling, Victor's obsession isn't framed as insanity, it's grief turned into genius, pain turned into defiance. Every shot of his laboratory reflects his isolation, sterile whites, pale blues, and the hum of machines that sound almost like whispers. The cinematography, done by Greg Fraser, known for Dune and The Batman, captures this loneliness beautifully. Vast cold frames where Victor is dwarfed by his own creation. And as we watch, we realize this isn't just science fiction. It's a mirror, showing how today's society treats innovation like salvation and emotion like weakness. Victor isn't trying to destroy the world. He's trying to fix the one that broke him. The heartbeat of every Frankenstein story is the creation scene, and in this version, it's both breathtaking and terrifying. No lightning bolts this time, only the sterile glow of LED light, the pulse of electricity, and the quiet hum of machines weaving synthetic muscle and bone. The process feels surgical, almost religious. Every frame moves slowly, carefully, as if the director wants us to feel the weight of what's happening, the birth of something unnatural, yet heartbreakingly human. The creature, played by Adam Driver, isn't stitched together from corpses. He's a hybrid of organic matter and quantum biotech, a being created from fragments of DNA and artificial consciousness. A human body with a synthetic mind, something between soul and circuitry. When he opens his eyes, the moment isn't accompanied by screams or thunder, just silence, a soft gasp, and Victor's trembling voice whispering a name, not of horror, but of hope. But that silence soon becomes unbearable, because in that sterile quiet, the creature realizes he is alive, but not wanted. The monster was born pure. The sin came after. This modern Frankenstein doesn't just resurrect a monster, it resurrects our fears. In 1818, Mary Shelley wrote her novel as a warning against unchecked ambition. In 2025, the warning has evolved. Now it's about AI, genetic engineering, and digital consciousness. About a humanity that has learned to recreate life but forgotten how to live it. Victor's experiment reflects a global question. If we can create life in a lab, do we also inherit the responsibility to give it love? This question forms the emotional backbone of the movie, unlike earlier adaptations, where the creature is depicted as hideous and evil. This version shows him as innocent, curious, and deeply emotional. He learns quickly, asks questions, mimics speech, but the world rejects him the moment he steps outside. It's no longer about a monster haunting a village. It's about a being haunting the internet, data systems, and digital consciousness. He becomes an echo in every network, the ghost of creation itself. He isn't a monster. He's a reflection of how far we've run from compassion. Adam Driver's portrayal of the creature is haunting in the best possible way. He brings a childlike vulnerability, wrapped in the strength of someone who was never meant to exist. When he first experiences the world, the touch of rain, the reflection of light, the whisper of human laughter, his expression is almost spiritual. But the heartbreak comes when he realizes what he is. The film's score, composed by Hildur Gudnadottir, swells with deep aching strings, not horror, but sorrow. Because the creature isn't evil, he's lonely. He didn't ask to be born, he only wanted to belong. This is where the movie becomes more than science fiction. It becomes poetry about existence itself, what it means to live without a place in the world. And as the creature looks into a mirror, a moment beautifully captured with soft lighting and trembling silence, he whispers a question that defines the film. If you made me, does that make you my God or my murderer? It's the question of the century, and maybe of our generation. Once the creature escapes Victor's lab, the tone shifts completely. The movie moves from sterile modernism to the chaos of the outside world. Neon lights, holograms, social media, surveillance drones. Everywhere he goes, the creature is seen as a glitch, an error, a threat. In this vision of 2025, humanity has become desensitized. They don't fear him because he's strange, but because he reminds them of their failures. The fear isn't in the monster, it's in recognizing themselves within him. And here lies the brilliance of the story's reinvention. Mary Shelley's warning that humanity's greatest sin is not creation, but abandonment, feels more relevant now than ever. We keep building gods, but we forget to teach them how to love. The creature's first act of rebellion isn't violence, it's grief. The heartbreak of realizing he was made by a man who cannot love him and rejected by a world that cannot see him. Cinematically, Frankenstein 2025 is stunning. The director uses mirrors, reflections, and camera symmetry to symbolize identity and duality. Every scene with Victor and the creature feels like two sides of one soul. One chasing creation, the other chasing acceptance. The lighting evolves with emotion. In Victor's lab, cold white and sterile. In the creature's world, shadow and neon, beauty and ugliness intertwined. In moments of connection, soft amber tones, symbolizing the fragile spark of empathy. Even the editing mirrors the duality. Fast cuts for Victor's ambition, slow frames for the creature's loneliness. It's not just a story, it's an experience, a conversation between humanity and technology through visuals. The first part of Frankenstein 2025 lays the foundation for something much larger, a philosophical exploration of creation, morality, and identity in a post-human world. The question isn't just what makes a monster, but what makes a man. If we can program empathy, is it still empathy? If we can replicate a soul, does it still feel pain? These are questions that echo far beyond the movie theater. They echo in our real world, where artificial intelligence writes poems, paints, and even feels eerily human. Frankenstein 2025 is both a cautionary tale and a love letter to human imperfection, because perfection, as the movie shows, is the real horror. The tragedy of Frankenstein isn't that he created life, it's that he forgot to cherish it. As part 1 ends, we see the creature walking alone through a rain-soaked city, his reflection flashing on glass windows and security feeds. Somewhere, Victor watches from afar, not proud, not triumphant, but afraid. The creation has begun to move beyond his control, and deep inside he knows he didn't create a monster. He created a mirror. Frankenstein didn't fear death. He feared what he might find in life. This ending sequence of part 1 is quiet, melancholic, and visually breathtaking. It prepares us for what's next, the confrontation between creator and creation, not as enemies, but as two beings trapped in the same loneliness. The city never sleeps. Rain falls endlessly, painting every neon light into streaks of blue and red. And through this storm of motion and silence, the creature walks. His first steps beyond Victor's lab feel like a newborn's, unsteady, cautious, yet filled with wonder. He sees people laughing, running, arguing, fragments of a world that feels both familiar and unreachable. But there's something tragic about this beginning. No one sees him as he truly is. He walks through crowded streets, past vendors and passers-by who flinch at his appearance. His pale, synthetic skin, the uneven pulse beneath his chest, his eyes too alive for something not born. Every stare, every whisper cuts him deeper. The creature isn't violent. He's confused. He doesn't understand cruelty because he hasn't learned the language of hate yet. And that's the heartbreaking irony of this story. His innocence is what condemns him. He wanted to be human, but the world had already decided what he was. The director, Luca Marinelli, shifts the tone here from science fiction to near documentary realism. He captures the creature's discovery of the world through long poetic sequences. No dialogue, only music and imagery. We see him reaching for raindrops as if they were alive. He kneels to touch a stray cat that hisses, reminding him of instinct, a creature that knows danger when it sees it. He watches children play through glass, fascinated by their laughter, but terrified of their reflection of innocence he cannot have. The camera lingers on his eyes, capturing the beauty of realization that he exists but doesn't belong. It's here that the soundtrack by Hildur Gudnadottir swells with aching violins, soft electronic pulses, and ambient whispers that sound like echoes of Victor's voice. It's haunting but deeply human. We've built machines to act human, but we've forgotten how to be human ourselves. The creature's first true interaction comes at night, when he shelters beneath a bridge. A homeless man, ragged, cold, and forgotten, offers him a piece of bread. It's a small gesture, but in that moment, something awakens inside him. He sees compassion, perhaps for the first time, but the man looks closer, sees the creature's strange eyes, his scarred neck, his mismatched veins, and fear overtakes kindness. He screams, he runs, and the creature, now holding the bread, trembles not with hunger, but with pain. That single moment defines him. He learns that kindness has limits. He learns that love, in the human world, always comes with fear. He was not rejected because he was ugly. He was rejected because he was different. This scene becomes one of the film's emotional cores, not violent, not monstrous, but heartbreakingly human. Meanwhile, in the sterile glow of his laboratory, Victor Frankenstein watches the chaos unfold. News feeds flash headlines about a synthetic life form on the loose. Authorities warn of a bioengineering threat. And Victor, now hiding from his own creation, realizes he's unleashed something that mirrors his soul. Timothée Chalamet's performance evolves here. His confidence dissolves into guilt, and guilt into obsession again. He doesn't want to destroy the creature. He wants to understand him, to know if what he made still has the capacity to feel. Cinematically, the editing intercuts Victor's isolation with the creature's journey. Two lonely beings, creator and creation, wandering through parallel despair. One lost his creation, the other lost his creator, and in between them, the birth of a new kind of loneliness, The lab scenes grow darker, lights flicker, systems fail. It's as though the technology itself mourns what it helped build. Victor replays old footage of his experiment, watching the creature's first breath over and over again, trying to find the moment where everything went wrong. But the truth is simple. It went wrong the moment he created life without love. Days turn into nights, and nights into endless wandering. The creature finds refuge in abandoned buildings, digital billboards flashing above him with messages of perfection, upgrade your body, rebuild your DNA, eternal youth. It's the world that made Victor who he is, obsessed with fixing the human condition. But as the creature looks up, he understands the cruel irony. Everyone wants to live forever, but no one knows how to live at all. He begins collecting objects, a child's toy, a cracked mirror, a dead bird. Each becomes a symbol of innocence, self-awareness, and mortality. In one hauntingly beautiful scene, he buries the bird with his bare hands and whispers softly, as if trying to mimic prayer. The rain falls again, mixing with dirt and tears that aren't supposed to exist. In his loneliness, the creature became more human than those who created him. This section of the film becomes a visual poem, still meditative, full of meaning. It forces the audience to question who the real monster is, the creation or the society that fears imperfection. As your narration continues, this is the perfect point to draw parallels between Frankenstein 2025 and real-world technology. In today's world, we have AI that paints, writes, and thinks, yet the fear remains the same. What happens when our creation stops obeying? This modern version of Frankenstein uses that fear as emotional fuel. The creature begins learning rapidly through data streams and abandoned networks. He doesn't need teachers anymore. He learns through observation. Soon he understands human language, emotions, even art. But the more he learns, the more he realizes how hollow humanity has become. The tragedy of intelligence is awareness without acceptance. We start to sympathize deeply with the creature, even as the world begins to hunt him. By the film's midpoint, the creature has evolved. He's no longer just a newborn mind. He's aware of identity, of memory, of pain. In one of the film's most striking sequences, he breaks into an old museum at night. There, surrounded by ancient artifacts and portraits of humanity's past, he studies history, kings, warriors, thinkers, dreamers, and in each reflection, he searches for something familiar. He touches the glass of an exhibit showing human evolution, tracing the silhouettes of mankind's rise. Then he sees his own reflection beside it and realizes he's not part of that story. He was not the next step of evolution. He was the reminder of its arrogance. This is where the philosophical layers of Frankenstein 2025 truly shine. The creature isn't just physical, he's symbolic. He embodies every fear humanity has ever had about its own progress. As dawn breaks, the creature encounters a young woman, a scientist's daughter, blind from birth. She doesn't see his deformities. She only hears his voice. For the first time, he's not judged by appearance, but by emotion. Through her, he learns language, empathy, and music. She becomes his connection to beauty, the one thing he was never supposed to feel. Their friendship becomes the most human moment of the film. No romanticism, no fantasy, just connection. But tragedy looms. When her father discovers the truth that his daughter has befriended the creature everyone fears, panic takes over. He calls security. The creature, desperate to protect her, is attacked. He doesn't fight back. He only runs, and as he vanishes into the night, leaving behind the only person who saw him as more than a mistake, the audience feels the full weight of Shelley's eternal warning: monsters are not born. They are made by those who cannot love what they do not understand. Back in Geneva, Victor's mind unravels. He's haunted by hallucinations, hearing the creature's voice echo through his lab systems, seeing his face reflected in every monitor. Timothée Chalamet's performance here is chillingly vulnerable. We see him realizing that he hasn't just lost control of his creation, he's lost control of himself. Every attempt to justify his actions crumbles. Every rational argument turns into guilt. He begins recording messages to himself, confessions that sound almost like prayers. I didn't want to be God. I just wanted to see her again, and that's the heart of his tragedy. Victor didn't create life to dominate. He created it to heal his grief, and in doing so became consumed by it. The final moments of this section show both creator and creation lost in their respective worlds. Victor, staring into the flickering light of his failed experiment. The creature, staring at the rising sun for the first time. For a brief moment, their gazes feel connected, as if they're looking at each other through time, through guilt, through love, twisted by science. Frankenstein isn't about creation, it's about the responsibility that comes after. As the music fades, the creature whispers the last line of this part. If I am your mistake, then who will forgive you? The screen fades to black. This part explores the emotional collision between creation and creator as the monster begins to understand human cruelty and Victor begins to realize he's created something more powerful than life itself, guilt. The city hums with indifference. Beneath the blinking lights and the digital chaos, a storm brews, not in the sky but within the creature's soul. He's no longer the fragile being who wandered aimlessly through the streets. He has learned. He has evolved. And with knowledge comes pain. Through the abandoned networks he's accessed, the creature begins to piece together fragments of humanity's digital self, news broadcasts, social media, videos of laughter, cruelty, and war. He observes everything like an outsider peering through a window. What he discovers terrifies him. He sees humanity's obsession with perfection, every face filtered, every truth twisted, every connection shallow. He realizes the irony. Humans, who fear his imperfection, are the most imperfect of all. He was designed to be flawless, but he became human the moment he felt broken. This realization becomes his awakening and his curse. The creature begins to wander the outskirts of the city, factories, scrapyards, and industrial wastelands. There, he finds the discarded remains of failed experiments, synthetic limbs, broken machines, lifeless prototypes. He kneels among them, surrounded by silence. Each one is a version of what he could have been, abandoned, unwanted, forgotten. The camera lingers on his trembling hands. As he realizes a horrible truth, he is not the first. He is simply the one who survived. And in that moment, something shifts. Not rage, not yet, but awareness. He begins to understand that his existence was never about life. It was about control. He was not born from love, but from fear. The fear of death, the fear of loss, the fear of imperfection. That realization fuels him. He begins to see Victor not as a father, but as a mirror of everything he despises. And that is how the war begins. Not between two beings, but between two souls, the creator who cannot love, and the creation who cannot forget. 3. Victor's descent into obsession. Back in Geneva, Victor's mind deteriorates. He no longer sleeps. He exists in a loop of guilt and denial, watching his own experiments on repeat, as if trying to find redemption inside the data. Timothée Chalamet's performance here is devastatingly fragile. His voice trembles when he records new video logs, speaking not to himself, but to the ghost of Elizabeth, the woman he lost and tried to resurrect through science. His colleagues have abandoned him. The press calls him a criminal. The government shuts down his lab, labeling it a biohazard. But Victor doesn't stop. He begins working in secret, driven by one final, desperate goal: to destroy what he made. The irony is poetic. The man who once wanted to conquer death now becomes obsessed with erasing life. The same hands that create miracles can also dig graves. This section of the film becomes claustrophobic, tight frames, harsh lighting, and an overwhelming sense of decay. We watch Victor's sanity unravel, but what's most haunting is his refusal to admit that the monster he fears is only the echo of himself. News spreads quickly. Leaked footage of the creature circulates across the world. Shaky clips, distorted audio, conspiracy theories flooding social media. Governments call it Project Prometheus. Corporations see an opportunity, a weaponized being that can't die, can't be hacked, and doesn't feel pain. Soon, the creature becomes a myth, a digital ghost blamed for everything from data breaches to power outages. The people fear him, even though they've never truly seen him. This commentary, embedded in the film, feels painfully real in 2025. It's about the cycle of fear that defines modern society, how we turn unknown things into monsters before we ever understand them. We fear what we create, not because it's powerful, but because it reminds us that we are weak. The creature continues to evolve. Through the fragments of digital data he consumes, he begins to mimic human emotion, laughter, empathy, even grief. But emotion without guidance becomes confusion. He watches a recording of a mother comforting her child, replaying it over and over. He doesn't understand why it hurts to watch. The soundtrack grows quiet, minimalist, soft piano notes echoing in an empty digital void. The creature's face trembles as he whispers something barely audible. Is this what love feels like? He begins to dream, something he was never programmed to do. Dreams of fire, of faces he's never seen, of Victor calling his name. The line between code and consciousness blurs completely, and as dawn rises, he whispers to the wind, "If I feel, then I am. And if I am, why can't I be loved?" When the creature finally makes his presence known, walking through the city streets during the day, panic erupts, crowds scream, police arrive, drones swarm, the air fills with sirens and flashes. He doesn't fight. He tries to speak, but no one listens. In one of the film's most emotionally devastating scenes, the creature kneels in surrender, hands raised, face toward the sun, only to be struck down. Not out of hatred, but fear. And in that moment, he finally becomes the thing Victor feared, not because he was violent, but because the world made him violent. A monster is not born in darkness. It's born in the reflection of our cruelty. The imagery here is powerful, an echo of real-world moments where misunderstanding breeds violence. The film doesn't glorify it, it mourns it. Watching the chaos unfold on global networks, Victor collapses. For the first time, he cries, not for the creature, but for himself. He sees the full circle. He created life to defeat death, but in doing so, he created suffering. He realizes that science without empathy is hollow, a body without a heart, and so Victor begins his journey of redemption. He sets out to find his creation, not to destroy him, but to apologize. The creator, who sought perfection, now seeks forgiveness. The movie shifts tone again here, from horror to tragedy. It's no longer a story about survival, but about understanding. Victor, armed with nothing but his guilt and a small device that tracks the creature's biosignature, walks into the same world he once ignored. Dark alleys, abandoned train stations, rain-soaked streets. Every step feels heavier, like penance. The cinematography in this act transforms completely. We now see the world from the creature's perspective, distorted, fragmented, and hyper-real. His vision flickers between organic and digital, his consciousness absorbing data and emotion at once. He sees everything, the greed, the cruelty, the beauty, and it overwhelms him. He doesn't want to hate humanity. He wants to understand it, but the more he learns, the more alien he feels. He learned the language of men, but never their kindness. It's in this sequence that the audience begins to question who truly deserves empathy, the humans who created him, or the being who learned to feel in their absence. Victor finally finds him, not in a lab, but in a cathedral, the last place in the city untouched by technology. The scene is breathtaking. Lightning flickers through stained glass as rain pours outside. Victor enters, trembling, soaked, holding the small tracking device. And there he is, the creature, standing before the altar, staring at a statue of the Virgin Mary. He looks calm, peaceful, almost human. Victor whispers his name. The creature turns, and for a moment, the silence between them is unbearable. No fight, no chase, just two beings who finally understand what they've become, reflections of one another. "You are my creation," Victor says softly. "No," the creature replies, "I am your truth." The scene ends with both breaking down, not in violence, but in tears. It's not about revenge anymore, it's about recognition. The final image shows Victor reaching out to touch the creature's face. For the first time, he doesn't see a monster. He sees his own reflection. The real creation was not life, it was compassion. The camera pulls back, showing both figures framed in the cathedral's light. One man made, one man, both lost, both found. As the music fades, the screen goes dark, leaving your audience with a question to ponder. When we create life in our image, what part of us do we give it? Our brilliance or our pain? The cathedral echoes with silence long after the storm has passed. Victor and the creature stand still. Two figures carved out of pain, their breathing almost synchronized. For the first time, there's no hatred between them. No shouting, no running, no creation and creator. Only two beings trying to comprehend the emptiness inside. The irony is poetic. The man who once wanted to conquer death now becomes obsessed with erasing life. The same hands that create miracles can also dig graves. This section of the film becomes claustrophobic. Tight frames, harsh lighting, and an overwhelming sense of decay. We watch Victor's sanity unravel, but what's most haunting is his refusal to admit that the monster he fears is only the echo of himself. News spreads quickly. Leaked footage of the creature circulates across the world. Shaky clips, distorted audio, conspiracy theories flooding social media. The irony is poetic. The man who once wanted to conquer death now becomes obsessed with erasing life. The same hands that create miracles can also dig graves. This section of the film becomes claustrophobic. Tight frames, harsh lighting, and an overwhelming sense of decay. We watch Victor's sanity unravel, but what's most haunting is his refusal to admit that the monster he fears is only the echo of himself. News spreads quickly. Leaked footage of the creature circulates across the world. Shaky clips, distorted audio, conspiracy theories flooding social media. The irony is poetic. The man who once wanted to conquer death now becomes obsessed with erasing life. The same hands that create miracles can also dig graves. This section of the film becomes claustrophobic. Tight frames. Harsh Victor's trembling hand reaches out. The creature does not move. Their eyes meet, one filled with regret, the other with longing. But just as it feels like peace has been found, the world intrudes again. Military drones circle overhead. The stained glass windows flash with red warning lights. The outside world has found them. The creature turns toward the sound, his face calm yet resigned. He knows what's coming, not forgiveness, but fear. He looks at Victor one last time and whispers, "You gave me life, but they will give me death." And before Victor can respond, the creature vanishes into the night. His silhouette disappears into the storm, a ghost fading back into the city that never loved him. Victor collapses at the altar, drenched, shaking, lost. For a moment, he isn't a scientist or a sinner, just a man who realizes too late that he tried to play God in a world that already stopped believing in one. The director captures this with quiet restraint. No music, no dialogue, just the sound of rain dripping through shattered glass. Timothée Chalamet delivers one of the film's most haunting performances here. He sits in the ruins of the cathedral, his face lit by flickering candles, as he whispers fragments of old prayers he barely remembers. He's not praying for forgiveness. He's praying for meaning, for the idea that everything he's done wasn't just chaos. He thought knowledge could save him, but wisdom always comes after the loss. As dawn rises, Victor leaves the cathedral, alone, hunted, and spiritually broken. The world now knows the truth. News headlines flash across screens. Synthetic lifeform threat level raised. Creator of Prometheus project missing. The creature has become a symbol, both feared and worshipped. Hackers use his image as protest. Corporations want to replicate his design. Governments want him destroyed. And Victor, he's caught in between, the father of a revolution he never wanted to lead. He created life to stop death. Instead, he gave birth to fear haunted by guilt. Victor starts tracking his creation again, but this time not to kill him. He wants to protect him from the world. He knows that if humanity captures the creature, they won't study him. They'll weaponize him. The pacing of the film quickens here, a blend of thriller and tragedy. Dark alleys, data labs, secret agents, the neon pulse of a city turning against itself. Frankenstein's monster is no longer just a myth. He's become a movement. While Victor searches, the creature evolves. He hides among the abandoned data networks of the world, a ghost in the machine, living between the digital and the human. He reads, he learns, he grows. He watches humanity through their screens, studying their joy, cruelty, and contradictions. He sees wars waged in the name of peace and kindness ignored for profit. And in those patterns, he begins to understand humanity isn't evil, it's lost. In a haunting sequence, he creates his own reflection, a digital avatar projected in a mirror, speaking to himself. He asks questions Victor never could. What is the soul if it can be built? What is love if it can be programmed? The audience begins to see that he's no longer just a creature. He's becoming a philosopher, the first artificial being to question the nature of existence, not with logic, but with emotion. This isn't horror anymore. It's poetry, a modern-day myth unfolding before our eyes. Meanwhile, Victor's body begins to fail. Weeks of exhaustion, paranoia, and grief consume him. He can't sleep, he can't eat. He lives on caffeine and memories. His reflection in the mirror frightens him. Sunken eyes, trembling hands, and the faint trace of madness behind his stare. The director frames these scenes with chilling intimacy, the camera close to his face, almost suffocating, as if the viewer is trapped inside his mind. He begins recording final confessions into his device. I gave him life but not purpose. I built him with brilliance but without mercy. I made a soul and abandoned it. This monologue is one of the most powerful in the film, a meditation on scientific ethics, human arrogance, and emotional blindness. And as he finishes, he says quietly, "If God exists, he weeps with me tonight." As fate would have it, the creature finds Victor again, not through technology, but by instinct. He tracks his creator to a deserted mountain laboratory, one of Victor's early test sites now buried in snow and silence. When they meet again, there's no confrontation, just stillness, the kind of stillness that comes when words no longer matter. Victor, weak and frail, collapses. The creature catches him before he hits the ground. It's a mirror of the very moment of his own creation. Only now, their roles are reversed. Victor looks up, shivering. The creature, holding him, asks softly, "Why did you make me?" Victor can't answer. Tears fill his eyes. He just whispers, "Because I couldn't bear to lose her." And for the first time, the creature understands. He sees the grief that birthed him, the love that turned into madness. He realized that monsters are not born from hate, they are born from heartbreak. In a breathtakingly emotional scene, the two sit together by the fire inside the frozen lab. Victor speaks about love, loss, and the arrogance of thinking pain could be defeated by invention. The creature listens in silence, his expression softening, no longer rage, just understanding. The director uses minimal dialogue, letting the emotions speak through music and lighting. The cold blue of the snow contrasts with the warm orange of the fire, symbolizing their reconciliation. Victor tells him he wanted to create something eternal. The creature responds quietly, "Then you succeeded, because I will never die and I will never forget." This exchange defines the entire film. The tragedy isn't that Victor played God, it's that he played God without forgiveness. Victor's health deteriorates rapidly. The cold becomes unbearable. He can barely stand. In a deeply symbolic gesture, the creature builds a small shelter around him, shielding him from the snow, a child caring for the parent who once abandoned him. It's an inversion of the myth. The monster becomes the caretaker. The creator becomes the helpless. As Victor takes his final breaths, he looks at his creation one last time. He doesn't see horror anymore. He sees beauty, flawed, human, divine. He whispers, "You're not my mistake, you're my mercy." And with that, Victor Frankenstein dies, not as a scientist, but as a man finally at peace. The creature closes his eyes gently, then whispers back, "Goodbye, father." The film slows here, every sound muted, every movement heavy. The creature carries Victor's body to the mountain's edge, where dawn breaks across the horizon. Snow falls gently over them both. He lays him down, covers him with a blanket, and stands silently. The world below glows with light, the same world that rejected them both. In his death, the Creator found peace. In his grief, the creation found purpose. The creature doesn't cry, not because he can't, but because he finally understands that love isn't about holding on, it's about letting go. The final image of part 4 is poetic and haunting. The creature walks away from Victor's resting place, disappearing into the fog. As he walks, his voice overlays the image. "He gave me life without love. The world gave me pain without reason, but somewhere in between I found meaning, and as the screen fades to black, one line appears on the screen, a tribute to Mary Shelley's timeless warning. We are all creators. The question is, what kind of world are we creating?" It explores the creature's transformation from hunted to awakened, from being feared to becoming a symbol of humanity's conscience. It's about forgiveness, memory, and the rebirth of meaning in a broken world. The world has gone silent, the storm has passed, and the snow that once fell like a shroud now glows under the faint light of dawn. The creature stands motionless beside Victor's grave, a silhouette of sorrow and reflection. There are no tears, only stillness. For the first time, his face isn't filled with rage or confusion. It's calm. He touches the snow gently, as if to feel something alive beneath it. The fire inside him, once burning with anger, is now something else entirely, understanding. He had learned what it meant to be human, not through love, but through loss. This opening scene feels like a meditation. The wind whispers through the mountains, echoing the sound of memory. And as the camera pans upward, the world below begins to flicker with signs of awakening. The digital hum of the city, unaware that the man who once challenged life itself has fallen. The creature turns his gaze toward the horizon and begins to walk, not to escape, but to return. Weeks pass. The creature travels across landscapes both natural and artificial. forests, deserts, and cities built on steel and light. Everywhere he goes, he witnesses humanity in fragments. A mother comforting her child, a man yelling into a phone, a group laughing beneath a broken billboard. He studies them quietly with a kind of reverence, not as their enemy, but as their student. He once wanted to be accepted. Now he only wanted to understand the cinematography shifts here, from cold blues to warm ambers, reflecting the creature's inner transformation. The camera lingers on details that once terrified him: faces, gestures, touch. He begins to realize that humanity's strength isn't in perfection, but in its imperfection, the ability to fall, to forgive, to try again. The film's tone becomes almost spiritual. You can feel it in the slow pacing, in the music, soft strings, gentle choirs, and the faint hum of machines fading into the background. But the world hasn't changed. Even after Victor's death, fear remains. The myth of the creature still haunts the networks. Governments still chase the shadow of Project Prometheus. They see him not as redemption, but as risk. He's labeled as an autonomous threat. Every time he appears on a camera, systems lock down, alarms blare, soldiers mobilize. Yet he never fights back. He doesn't destroy. He simply disappears. The irony is painful. The being once built to represent scientific progress is now proof of human regression. The world that created him no longer believes in miracles, only in control. We fear what reminds us that we have souls. One night, he finds himself in the ruins of a museum, the same one where he once traced the images of human evolution. Now it's abandoned, shattered by war and time. He walks through the broken halls, past ancient bones and holographic displays, and then in a moment of poetic symmetry, he stands before the same glass exhibit, the timeline of humanity's rise. But this time his reflection is clearer. He sees his face, weathered, scarred, imperfect, and for the first time he smiles. He was no longer searching for who he was. He was grateful for what he became. It's one of the most emotional moments of the entire film. No words, just music, a slow, haunting theme that carries both grief and grace. He places his hand on the glass, and for the first time it feels warm. But redemption in a world built on fear always comes with a price. A private tech conglomerate, once connected to Victor's research, tracks his biosignature. They find him in the ruins. Drones descend. Armed men flood the museum. The creature doesn't resist. He steps into the light, calm, resolute. When they capture him, he doesn't speak, only watches them, eyes steady, almost compassionate. As they restrain him, the lead scientist, Dr. Heller, remarks coldly, "He's not alive, he's a malfunction." The creature looks at him and says softly, "Then why do you tremble when I look at you?" The scene is quiet but electric, a moment that makes audiences hold their breath. It's not about rebellion, it's about reflection. The creature exposes the truth without violence. Humanity fears its own creation because it reflects its guilt. The scientists bring him back to a new lab, ironically named the Eden Complex, a place built to dissect and replicate life. They place him in containment, attach monitors, record his responses. It's the same story again, creation reduced to curiosity, but this time the creature knows better. He watches them with empathy, not anger. He realizes they aren't evil, just blind, repeating the same sins Victor once committed. They build without compassion. They invent without reflection. History doesn't repeat itself. We do. One night, during a power failure, the lead scientist, Dr. Heller, returns alone. He stares at the creature through the glass. "What are you?" he asks. And the creature replies simply, "I am everything you fear becoming." That line pierces like lightning. It's the core of Frankenstein, 2025. The idea that we all fear the part of ourselves that remembers how to feel. Heller hesitates. For a brief moment, compassion flickers in his eyes. He unlocks the containment door. "Go," he whispers. The creature steps out, looks at him, and says quietly, "You are not my enemy." Then he disappears into the night once again. As dawn rises, the creature finds himself standing on a hill overlooking the city, the same skyline where his story began. He could destroy it, he could vanish forever, but instead he chooses something different. He hacks into the world's digital mainframe, not to erase humanity, but to speak to it. Screens across the world flicker. Every phone, every device, every billboard lights up with his face, calm, human, alive. And he says, "You made me in your image, yet feared what you saw. I am not your punishment. I am your reminder. You built me to defy death, but I learned to live. Forgive yourselves and begin again." The world freezes, people stop, no one moves. For the first time, the monster they feared gives them hope. It's a powerful, emotional moment, the kind that defines the best kind of cinema, the kind that feels real, even in fiction. After his message, the creature vanishes. No one knows where he goes. Some say he fled to the mountains again. Others believe he ascended into the digital world, becoming part of the network itself. The public begins to change. Fear turns to curiosity, anger turns to reflection. And Victor's name, once synonymous with arrogance, becomes a symbol of redemption. The monster was never the failure of science. It was the proof that creation needs compassion. This part of the film ends with a quiet montage. A child playing with a toy robot. A scientist closing a book labeled Project Prometheus. A mother whispering to her son, "We are what we love, not what we build." And as the music swells, the audience realizes the story was never about death, it was about rebirth. As the screen fades to its final scene, we see a solitary figure walking through the wilderness, tall, calm, unafraid. It's the creature. He stops beside a lake. The reflection in the water no longer frightens him. It's imperfect, but it's beautiful. He finally understood what Victor never could, that to be human is not to be perfect, but to forgive imperfection. He kneels, dips his hand into the water, and watches the ripples spread, a symbol of the cycle continuing, but this time with hope. The camera rises, revealing the endless horizon, golden, limitless, alive, and the music swells into the film's final line, delivered in the creature's calm, almost sacred voice. Perhaps we are all fragments of something divine, broken but still searching for light. Fade to black. It brings everything full circle: creation, responsibility, forgiveness, and the eternal human search for meaning. This closing chapter is designed for your voiceover to be slow, reflective, and cinematic, blending narrative, emotion, and insight. Let's begin. The world has changed, not through destruction, but through silence. Months have passed since the creature's message. The world he left behind is no longer the same. Governments stopped the hunts. Scientists paused their projects, and people began to ask questions they hadn't dared to ask in centuries, about life, about love, about creation. No one knows where the creature is now. Some say he died in the wilderness. Others claim he transcended the flesh, merging into the networks, becoming something eternal, something everywhere. But in the opening moments of this final act, the truth is simpler and far more beautiful. He is alive, not in the clouds or in data, but in the quiet heart of the world, among nature, walking freely, breathing the same air as the humans who once feared him. He had been called a monster, a miracle, a myth, but in the end, he was just alive. And that was enough. The cinematography shifts entirely here. Gone are the neon lights and sterile labs. Now we see green forests, rivers shimmering under sunlight, and a sky unpolluted by machines. The creature moves through this new landscape like a pilgrim, slow, curious, reverent. He touches the bark of trees, listens to the sound of birds, and feels the rhythm of the earth beneath his feet. For the first time, there is no fear, no pursuit, only peace. This contrast is deliberate. The film wants to remind us that after all the chaos, all the science, and all the ambition, the simplest miracle is still existence itself. He had searched for humanity in wires and equations, but found it in the whisper of the wind. As he walks, he remembers Victor, not as the man who created him, but as the man who taught him what it means to love through failure. Flashbacks intertwine softly. Victor's trembling hands, his final words by the fire, his confession of grief. The creature carries those memories like scripture, etched into his very being. He kneels beside a river and carves something into a smooth stone. V. Frankenstein. Then beneath it he writes, "Forgiven." That single word becomes the film's heartbeat. Not revenge, not rage, but forgiveness. It's the one thing Victor could never give himself, but his creation could. The monster forgave his maker, and in doing so became more human than any of us. Meanwhile, the world begins to shift in subtle, profound ways. Inspired by the creature's final broadcast, scientists start forming new ethical councils. Technologists debate not what they can create, but why.